Siesta Sand Live.
Siesta Sand Live is broadcast from Captain Kurt's Village. It's Siesta Key's home to great food, great drinks, great music, and great times. Look for the giant American flag.
Welcome to Siesta Sand Live. I'm your host, Natalie Gutwein. I am coming to you live from Captain Kurt's on the beautiful island of Siesta Key. Siesta Sand Live is a community-based podcast based solely on the comings and goings on Siesta Key. We're going to bring on the movers, the shakers, the decision makers, the person next door who had some incredible contribution to society but we knew nothing about, the business leaders, anybody and everybody that you've been waiting to hear from. That's who we're going to bring to you. I personally am a board member of the Siesta Key Association. I write a column for the Siesta Sand newspaper. I'm a realtor here. I live here. I raised my son here. I'm originally from Greencastle, Indiana. I was born and raised a Hoosier, and I am so incredibly proud of the IU 10-0 football team this year. But back to the podcast. Today, we're starting day one off with one of the biggest movers and shakers on Siesta Key, Mike Holderness, and he will not disappoint today. I'm sure he's got lots of good information. So we're going to be broadcasting every week, so stay tuned and let's see what we've got to say today.
Today, I'm here with Mike Holderness. Like you, wear a lot of different hats here in Sarasota. You're a business owner here, and you grew up in Sarasota. You're currently on the board of the Sarasota Visitors Council. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, the tourism advisory. That was good.
So what are you doing right now in Siesta Key to help get the money back and help us get through this hurricane?
Yeah, currently right now we're just involved mainly in the cleanup, still licking our wounds, per se. We wrote a bill that we gave to Senators Ben Alford and Natalie Gutwein. And the bill would state something along the lines that the properties that were affected by the storm, when they were out of business for a little longer than 30 days, would be able to retain the tourism development tax for the year for 2025, which would be about an average of $5,000 per property, which would help people get back on their feet, mattresses.
All right.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about your business and how the hurricane impacted your business?
Yeah, we took it on the chin. But, I look at it at the end of the day, it's a big cleansing. We're getting new stuff, but,
right.
And it's a cleansing all the way around. Midnight Pass that reopened, so our waterfall is clearing up. We have a new county commission board that's very supportive of Siesta Key's needs, those kind of things. So all in all, everybody's coming back together. We're working really hard.
Right.
And it's more of a unity of community that's really come along in this.
So for those of you who don't know, Mike is a business owner here on the island. He owns a hotel that's one of the major things you own here. And your hotel was next to we had a little office on Siesta Key, and I was so amazed. Right after the hurricane, you were out there in an old cruiser yourself. Is that how that was? Or was it front loader?
Yeah, front loader.
Front loader, sorry. And you were out there yourself moving mattresses, and I was amazed at how your company got everything out, and you got it cleaned up, you got the dumpsters there. How long did that take you to get that food out?
We had quite the crew. We have a big team and staff that we want to keep busy. So as soon as we can get back into business, that's the better we are at being sustainable and protecting our employees and their lives as well, right? We don't want to lose them and their suffering as well. So we got out there, we loaded probably 30-yard dumpsters of mattresses, furniture, some of the neighbors' stuff to help clean up the roadways, try to get that back in order. We showed up after Helene and just kind of walked in circles for about 10 minutes and decided to go ahead and go to Home Depot and get 10 pressure washers and start cleaning out.
And what capacity are you open to furniture?
Right now at the hotel, we're closed. We'll be open by Christmas. That's our goal. Beachside Management is another company that I know because they have 100 properties in there. I'd say probably 40 of those were affected by the storm. So we're working with those owners as well on a daily basis, helping them get back up because It's good for them, but it's also good for my company too, the sooner that they get here. So we jumped in with both feet with them as well.
So when the hotel opens back up, will it be all the rooms, some of the rooms? How do you see that?
Yeah, we'll go in stages. We'll have a few of them. Some of them are open, the top floors open by comes Thanksgiving. And then by Christmas, we should be about 90% open. And then hopefully, by season, we'll be 100%.
So when people are calling and they're asking about whether or not they're going to be open, what's the segment? What are people saying?
We have partnerships too with the county. So some of our delays are, based on the county. How quick can they clean up our streets to get the debris off the road, those kind of things. Parks and Recs did a great job opening the main beach. They got that cleaned up right away. I would have preferred, before they opened the main beach, that our county administrator, Jonathan Lewis, would have came out and spoke to the people, the community, and the business owners that are suffering. A lot of our residents have lost everything, including their computers. So how do they go online? How do they know what's going on? There's been very little updates. It's kind of almost like a failed leadership on the administration side. Other than that, the county staff members are great. It's just the leadership that needs to come out here and speak to the people and listen to us.
I was really amazed. I was driving through the village one day. I live here, I work here, I'm always driving around. And I drove by the hotel and we're staying out there. And you called a meeting with everybody that's anybody on Siesta Key or represents Siesta Key to get things going back here on the islands. Can we talk about who was at that meeting?
Yeah, that was a good meeting. So right after Milton, I met with the governor, and his main concern was the debris that was everywhere in the sewage. Those were his two. And then after that, Senator Gruters brought Senator Albrecht out. We invited you, of course. Mark Smith, our county commissioner, he came out to hear what was going on. And that's where we were able to talk more openly about what was needed and what could help people get back on their feet sooner than later. It's all about time, right? Because Siesta Key is a donor community for all of Sarasota County and Florida for that matter. We collect a lot of tourism tax. So the sooner we can get back open, our economic impact on Siesta Key is probably somewhere around $4 million a year. So we have to get it open quickly. Because every month is hundreds of millions of dollars of economic impact.
So we did find out after the hurricane that Governor DeSantis was saying, we're going to get this debris cleaned up. We've since found out that, and maybe you can elaborate on this for me, whomever was hired to initially do the cleanup, because I was driving around the island and saying, there's nobody there cleaning up the trash, looking around. This was between Holderness and Milton. Do you know what?
Yeah, it was terrible. First off, Helene came in and put about 2 feet of water into a lot of properties out here, and pretty much everything ground level. So the amount of debris was just hundreds and thousands of cubic yards of debris, if not millions. And nobody showed up to clean it up.
No, there was nobody here. Right. And I was texting my board Siesta Key Association board members, and I kept saying, I don't see any trucks here. And from my house, I kind of overlooked Midnight Pass, and I kept saying, there are no trucks here. Well, I guess, who was it at that meeting that said they're going to have an oversight committee to look over what happened?
Yeah, that was Governor DeSantis. He's looking into it. Also, our senators are looking into it as well. It was just another example of failed leadership. We don't pay discounted taxes. We're a donor community. We have 4% of the population, and we bring in 1/3 of taxes. So we don't require much. But when a storm comes, our tax money should be going for protections.
Right.
And they hired a discounted vendor. Well, they didn't have a backup plan. So the discounted vendor couldn't perform. And then FEMA didn't show up because they gave our money out to other countries and illegals, I heard. But FEMA had no money. So the county didn't have a backup plan. And that's really sad because they have cost themselves, itself in public taxpayers,
Right, it's been a lot.
Millions of
this continuing. Do you have any updates on cleaning up, and I do see the trucks out here now. It is a slow process. I've been surprised at how long it takes for the trucks to pick everything up.
It's Mickey Mouse. I mean, it's just hodgepodge. It's completely a failed system. It's failed leadership.
Right.
You know, we had Eco South, which is like a local company with their own transfer stations. The county could have came in and stepped in and gave them more money, but I don't know where the money went. Special interest, now they don't have any. It's just all comes down to dollars and cents, right? And they left us hanging, and they failed us in a really big way. Now that we have new commissioners, though, I think that we can put in backup plans to discount vendors and things like that. They hire these vendors that they might be the cheapest, but are they the ones that can actually
They didn't show up.
They didn't show up.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
Have you, I know you've worked on getting the village cleaned up. Had any word on what's going on with that? I mean, when I drive through, it's still dusty streets, and we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet.
It's sad. It's very sad. I talked to staff the other day, Spencer Anderson particularly, and I asked him, when are you going to come and clean the sand out of our storm drain? We have another storm that's on its way, with a lot of rain. So what are we going to do now? Flood with fresh water? Because they haven't bothered to suck out the storm drains that are packed full of sand. We drive down, Beach Road, and it's still full of sand and nails. I don't know how many nails. I have a nail in my tire. Yep, reminds me too. Yep, it's just sad. It's just really sad that they just leave us out here and they don't care. And it's not the commissioners. I want everybody to know that. The commissioners are great. They're putting the heat on staff, and a lot of the commissioners are new coming in. So it's just years and years and years of take from Siesta Key, and there's no reserves. There's no support. I mean, it's just really sad for these people. They've lost everything. I mean, let's not forget we have, 10,000 permanent residents?
Right.
If not more. They're out here suffering and driving over nails, and they're seeing their sofas and all their heirlooms sitting by the curb for months. That's bad on their psyche. So it's like when I talk about opening the main beach, okay, Parks and Rec's did a good job. But where's the leadership to come out here and talk to the community and talk to the business owners? That's what's missing.
Right. Well, you do a great job bringing them out here. As a resident out here, as a business owner myself, thank you. Thanks to all the time that you spend bringing people here to keep an eye on what's going on. And we hope to have you on the podcast many times in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next segment is brought to you by the Judie Berger team, part of Sotheby's International Realty. Whether a buyer or a seller, you'll be delighted with their service. And by Altez Vacations. It's the perfect place to go to find that perfect place to rent.
Welcome back to Siesta Sand Live. I'm with Jamie Miller, Executive Director of Save the Pass. Did I say that correctly?
That works perfectly.
All right. So we've had these hurricanes, and obviously they were devastating our community, but there was one good thing that came out of these hurricanes. Can you talk a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, so when, we had Debbie Helene built, as we all know, right? And so, Debbie came in and dumped all this water into the bay, and it was really devastating. That's one of the things people don't really realize is even a Tuesday afternoon in June, 3-inch thunderstorm that comes through causes chaos in the bay, Little Sarasota Bay. And the water doesn't mix properly because there's not enough water flow through that portion of the bay. And so we've had a years-long effort to work with the county to restore Midnight Pass to its natural beauty and environmental use.
When did that first close? Is it about 30 years ago?
So it's 1983, so more than 40 years ago. And in 2008, there was an effort to open the pass. And the Florida Department of Environmental Protection sent a letter to the county saying we're intending to deny your permit. And the reason why was this word recent in state statute that says, if a pass has recently been closed, it can't be open, right? And so we went through this effort with the county. The county received an appropriation from the state for $500,000 to study the restoration of Midnight Pass. And then we, this right before all these storms happened, we had a 5-0 vote that the county directed their staff to work with their lobbyists and the elected officials to change the definition of recent, right? So now we know the definition of recent because it's right now.
Right, it just happened.
And so as Helene came through, it restored Midnight Pass. It took the dunes that were at Midnight Pass and kind of, and it opened. But it opened like one day, the 2 days that it started to close because all the beach sand started migrating back to the beach.
So to back up just a little bit,
Sure.
for somebody that would be watching the show that doesn't really know what happened.
Yeah.
So Midnight Pass was open. It was a pass that boats could get through. It would flush back and forth through
Right.
from the Gulf to the bay. The water quality was better, and it closed.
Right.
And some homeowners fought to keep it closed, and there was a fight.
It didn't close on its own. So, and that's one of the misconceptions. So, throughout recent history, let's call it 100 years, not 40, but over 100 years, we've had a pass that people would call a wild pass. And so it would be Midnight Pass, all the way up through Sanderling kind of area where the bay is there. There used to be a pass there. And so sometimes it would migrate, right? It was called, I think, Buccaneer Pass way back when. And, but in recent, from 1910, let's say, forward, you have in the area of Midnight Pass, you would have what's called a wild pass, and it would be open continuously, but it would move up and down.
But we've always had an opening.
It always had an opening. There's always been an opening. And so what happened is after the Army Corps of Engineers dredged the Intercoastal Waterway, they dumped those spoils, and those spoils then filled in the pass, basically filled in the pass. So, and they started filling in. And so what happened was the pass started moving north into Siesta Key towards houses. And so a famous artist said, "Hey, listen, I want to save my house. Can I get a one year permit to close the pass?" And the county and the state gave him a permit with no studies, no federal approval, no federal permits, no federal studies, nothing, right? So it's just take a bulldozer and bulldoze it close. And in a year, you're going to study and reopen it, right? It's a 1 year temporary. Well, a year later,
And that was in the 80s?
83. And so then a year later, the homeowner says, I tried to open the pass and it didn't work. And so, it stayed closed. And so there were efforts over that time in the 90s. There was a big effort. 2008 was a genuine effort. And they said, oh, well, it's not recently closed. I would argue that, it's been open for 1,000 years, 40 years is recent. But
But it was all hung on that one word.
It's
which
basically
statutes and arguments frequently do.
Right.
Hang on one little word.
So we decided, so this summer we worked with our county commission and our organization. We're a grassroots organization supporting the county's effort. It's the county's land. We ask people to donate to us because we have engineers and things because we want to make sure that we're giving the county expertise from the community, right? We just don't want government saying this is how it has to happen or how it should happen.
Right.
We want to have a voice at the table. So the society hires, I'm the one expert on the government relations side they hire, and then there's an engineer that they hire. But the board is all volunteer, and we're a pretty lean organization. So if people want to donate, that would be a great way to help. And so now the storms have come through. Lane comes through, opens the pass, and so we've had our engineer write with one of our attorneys write a emergency injunction for the county to use to ask the state to include Midnight Pass in the emergency order. That all of this work is being done in Siesta Key and surrounding areas.
Along with everything that's in conjunction with the hurricane.
Right. So then Milton comes through and really opens the pass. Now we're looking at a pass that's 50, 60 feet wide, 9 to 12 feet deep. The issue is that if we're going to maintain the pass, you have to have 9 to 12 feet of water all the way until it's 9 to 12 feet deep in the Gulf of Mexico. And so what happens is, you all know, if you're on the beach, right? Like you walk out on the beach, right? The sand moves and there's 4 feet of water a good ways out, 6 feet, whatever. And so if you have to go a little ways out to get to 9 feet of water. And so eventually what will happen with the pass is, depending on tides, and it may take some time, or it could be another storm event. Because if you go down there, there's a lot of sand. Everybody knows there's a lot of sand.
Right.
This thing dumped a lot of sand on the beach, and a lot of that sand went completely over the island and into the intercoastal and into the bay. So as that sand comes out, you have the possibility for the pass to slowly start to close. But the good news is, for the first time since it's closed, we have 100% political will on our side. From our 5-0 county commissioners, including the 2 who were just elected this week, are supportive of restoring the power, maintaining the pass now. And our state legislative delegation is 100% on board with maintaining the pass. Our congressman is 100% on board. Rick Scooby is 100% on board with maintaining the pass.
So when you say maintaining the pass, what do we need to do? What do we need money to do, funding, and what is that process?
So our funding goes towards the grassroots effort to ensure that the county hears the community, right? And so, and that's done behind the scenes with me, and it's done publicly at events and our Facebook page and all of those things.
Right, your Facebook page is wonderful. The pictures, when I woke up that day after the hurricane and there's all this devastation, and then I start seeing Midnight Pass opened up, and I went to the Facebook page, and there were I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, and the water flowing out from the pass, and you could see the brown water going in. And that is, what's the exact name on Facebook so people can go and find you?
So we're called the Restore Midnight Pass Society 2. Okay. And follow up and like us there, and you'll get updates. And so our board meets monthly, and we discuss strategies on maintaining communication with our county commissioners, our elected officials, and the public, to make sure that the public's voice is being heard. What we want to make sure is that, immediately after the storm, there are a lot of rumors, right? Oh, the Army Corps is going to come in and just shut in. And so, but we took care of some of the things we did was work with our congressman. Our congressman called the Army Corps of Engineers and said, "You're not doing this without approval from the county." And they're like, "Of course we're not going to do it without approval from the county." But then it's also making sure that the county prioritizes people and property first, but that this is a priority as well. And
so what does that look like? What do they need to dredge more? How does it stay?
So I'm not going to go on the engineering and science side, but we think, what I'm told from an engineer, or from our engineer, is that we probably can stabilize that pass open by putting in what they call training groins there on the south end of Siesta Key.
Okay.
So that the pass does not migrate north into Siesta Key, which will happen. If that pass closes, it'll still try to migrate north, right? And so you'll have one of the things is, if we have another storm, we want to make sure that it doesn't create a Buccaneer Pass in the middle of Sanderling, apartments and that community, right? And so if we maintain a pass there, we know that Mother Nature wants wants to move energy through that pass, right? And so we need to maintain it to protect people and property, and then also the environment. Even Dr. Tomasco from the Sarasota Bay Estuary Program last May gave a presentation in County Commission, and his quote was, "Little fish can't become big fish," because the amount of water, it takes 10 days to move water from Little Sarasota Bay out into the Gulf of Mexico, where every other bay, including Tampa Bay, the water flushes every 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And so it takes more than 3 times longer for water transfer to happen in Little Sarasota Bay, and some people would say it takes up to 12 days. So you're talking about it, and then you have a rain event, and that fresh water can't get out and mix properly with salt water, so you end up with this salinization problem.
Right.
And,
and a lot of that water, I don't think people realize, when the water comes off of lawns, there's fertilizer in it, it's dirty water that flushes from.
And the county's done a good job. I don't want to take any credit away from them. They've done a good job with upland mitigation to try to keep that from happening. And of course, it's never going to be completely perfect, right? Because we all fertilize our lawn, but they go through these efforts to try to keep that from happening. And you know, I think there's some reports that would say that they're fairly successful until there's a huge, you know, I don't even want to say a hurricane, but like a huge rain event, 2 to 3 inches, right? We have those several times a year.
Right.
Where, you know, 3 hour, you know, you get an inch an hour for 3 hours.
Well, and this year it was very significant when Debbie hit because we hadn't had a huge rain. It was dry here for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we had a tropical storm during Debbie, and that it had so much rain, and it was just all of a sudden. So we really saw how brown.
Right, and so you have this. So the water needs to move through there, and what ends up with the little fish not becoming big fish. So what is happening is big fish can survive pretty well through these,
They're a lot more resilient.
you know, the dolphins, the redfish, you know, once they're big. But when you have, you know, the egg laying and small fish, they either die because of salinity problems or they become bird food, right? Or other fish food, right? And so they don't get a chance. It's a lot like turtles, right? Like turtles have to get to deep water to survive, and so do fish. So their one chance for survival is to get to deep water, and they can't do that if it takes 10 days, because in those 10 days they just get, and so or they die from, you know, a rain event where the salinity screws them
So
up.
the people that want to get involved, what can somebody do to get involved? Where
So the number one thing they can do is follow us on Facebook, because we're going to have community events, and we usually have a community event about once a quarter where we update the community. We'll have a county commissioner or state senator, like Joe Gruters, or whoever come in, or Congressman Sotheby that was scheduled to speak at our last one, and kind of let people know
what's going on
from a firsthand.
You had a boat parade.
We did.
How was that successful?
It was, yeah. So there were more than 200 or 300 boaters that came through. I think at the pass there, I think somebody counted about 500 boats with a drone total. You know, so the community, to say that the community is excited to see this pass open after a generation of it being closed by man, I would say illegally, because there's no federal permits. And the other interesting thing is the county and state are in violation of federal law by that being closed. And so if they try to close it, they're in violation of it's kind of weird, but this is it's kind of like old railroad law, old bay and water protection laws. But when they closed the pass, they violated the 1899 Rivers and Harbors Appropriation Act, which is maybe a little bit too deep in the weeds. But what that says, as from a broader view, is that if a bay or harbor was ever used as a safe harbor, the pass cannot be closed. And so, and we know, because Spanish Point is there, that Indians have used that bay as a safe harbor for 10,000 years. And so, we also know that since it's been open, that the county sheriff's department has used it for safety efforts. CETO has used it for safety efforts. The Florida Wildlife Commission has used it for safety efforts. So the Sarasota Fire Department has used it for safety efforts. So we know that our own government needs that pass to provide safety.
To keep us safe.
Right. And so I hope they take that all into consideration and, stabilize the pass open, which is what needs to happen. Some level of dredging and maintenance, will have to occur over the years. But I think we saw what will happen. If we have another storm, it's better to have the energy guided than the energy to come up here through the village. Because nature's going to nature's going to put that energy somewhere. Right. So, and we saw that time and time again here. I mean, we saw that with Milton. There's some evidence that on an incoming tide, Siesta Key started flooding and Midnight Pass opened and the water receded because the energy went south. And so, so we've, you know,
It has to have a place to go. That's what
we all know. We all know that.
And we hadn't thought about that here on Siesta Key ever, really.
Right.
We have found out since that, yeah, the water has to have a place to go. And if there are dredges or canals, whatever it is, we're better off if we can direct it ourselves.
Right. So the engineer we've hired is Karen Erickson. She was part of the 2008 effort, and she put together a model of what would happen for 20. She calls Milton a 20 to 50 year storm, not even a 100-year storm. You know, so and so she put together a model, and exactly what she predicted in her model is what happened on Siesta Key as far as
And that was before.
Helene. This is 2008.
Oh, she put that up.
She predicted that, you know, if you have this storm surge, you know, these things happen at the same time, that Siesta Key will flood to 3 to 4 feet, you know, but if the pass is open, you have better chance of reducing that flooding because the energy stays off
And
the
there was a
land.
lot less flooding from that.
Right.
Was the whole-
Right, and that was on an incoming tide, if people remember correctly. So it would make just logical sense that the water would have continued to creep up, and it did not, because the pass opened and the water had, the energy had another place to
Well,
go.
thank goodness we've got great architects to keep it open.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
My pleasure.
everything you do, the hard work you do for Siesta Key. Love to have you over again. I know there's a lot of topics on Siesta Key that you know a great deal about.
oh, well, thank you very much. I'm happy to help.
Thanks for coming.
Yep.
The following segment is brought to you by Beach Bazaar, located in the heart of Siesta Village. Everything for the beach, and we do mean everything. And by FAM Development, the area's best in custom-built homes. Start living your dream on and around Siesta Key.
Hello, we're back, and I am with Brian Wigglesworth. Brian, you started the Crystal Classic. Can you give us some background on you're a professional sand sculptor, correct?
Right. Yeah. I started the Siesta Key Crystal Classic. Well, I like to say I created it because starting it kind of implies that I did it all myself, and I didn't. There was a lot of people that helped in the Siesta Key Chamber of Commerce, Sarasota County, Mark Smith Architecture, Cheryl Gaddy Design. Cheryl Gaddy, passed away. That wonderful woman helped a lot, and
So what was the thought? How did you, when you created it, how did that all start in your head?
well, I used to compete in the Pelican Presses amateur competition, and I'd win it every year. Somebody said, "You're too good. You have to move up." And I said, "I wasn't move up." Somebody told me about the state competition in Fort Myers, in conjunction with the Masters competition. So I decided next year to go to the Fort Myers state competition. I took first place then, and they invited me back to the Masters competition the next year, which is kind of unheard of to go up that fast. But then I found myself in a whole class of sculptors. I was a low man on the totem pole then. And
How long ago was that?
that was 22 years probably. And I worked as a sand sculptor for a little bit. I started a company, and I kind of realized that sand on Siesta Key was much better than the sand they were using in Fort Myers for sand sculpture. Finer the better. So,
And is
nothing
it
finer
true?
than
So it
Siesta
is
sand.
true that here Siesta Key, it's much different than the Panhandle. or
Every sand is
anywhere.
different everywhere. Every sand is different everywhere. The finer the better, though. And there's nothing finer than Siesta Key. It's just mine is the whitest laboratory group. So I decided to see if we could start a Masters competition here. And I spoke with the Chamber of Commerce representative at that time, and Maria Benkemper. We got it together with a lot of hard work. Took us a couple of years, and it started popping.
So how many people come out to the lights every year?
No, I don't know exactly what the numbers are now, but I think it's somewhere around 40,000.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. In fact, I'm not sure about it, but I think that's what I've heard. And we do have like a $9 million impact on the local community. So and it's very important to get this thing going this year.
Right, and we were a little afraid that it wasn't going to happen after the 2 hurricanes. Eric coordinating with the chamber and our team, he was instrumental in making sure that it did happen. I personally, as a resident here, I think it's important that you do everything you can to get back together as quickly as we can. And I think if the Crystal Classic didn't happen, I don't think we would feel like things are getting back to normal as quickly as they really are.
I definitely think it gave us a lot of hope to get things back to normal. Yeah, and I think that's why the Chamber and the Sarasota County were very adamant about getting these things going and working very, very hard to get it.
So for somebody listening that doesn't know what the Crystal Classic is, how can you explain it?
The Crystal Classic is a master sand sculpting competition where we bring in the best sand sculptors from around the world. They come and they compete for prize money, but we also pay them up in hotels, we feed them, and so it's a little expensive to do. Beach costs money, everything. There's so much.
Right.
There's so many art.
A lot of
to this
heavy
art.
equipment.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how much, you think about sand sculpting and you think people just show up with shovels, and it is nowhere near that.
No.
Quite the production.
Our center sculpture alone, just the centerpiece, is 275 tons of sand, approximately. And our county guys come out with their front loaders and they skim 3 to 6 inches off the top of the beach to actually use Siesta Key sand. And they are incredible at putting that sand right back where it was after the event is done. So the beach, hours after we're done, it doesn't look like there was anything going on.
Right. I was actually disappointed
They are amazing.
at first when I moved here, and it just disappears so quickly. And I thought, why don't they leave that? But then I understand turtles and all the different things. You have to kind of put it back together.
And it can be very dangerous. Kids can go out and dig in the middle of the night, collapse on them. It's actually a very big danger to the sculpture. None of the events.
How many sculptors are coming here this year?
We have 24 master sculptors that will be here, and a few semi-pros that will be helping out in different areas. Some of this was satellite sculptures and things like that. We have the centerpiece to do, and then we have a couple of photo ops. We have the welcome sculptures. The welcome sculpture is going to be covered this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who designed that?
I'm not sure who designed it, but I know the sculptor that's doing it. His name is Craig Much.
Well, it's exciting. So what are some of, I know there's a kids area in the past. Will you still have that?
Yeah, we'll still have what we call the learning curve. It's a round table. They've been used to teach lessons on demonstration. We'll also have the quicksand, which is an event I created as well, which is where we put 2 podiums with spinning tops. We put a 5-gallon bucket of sand on top of each one, and master sand sculptors will compete against each other in a 10-minute carve a 5-gallon bucket of sand. So of an item that the audience would choose. So the audience chooses an item with my help, and then
is that
10
something
minutes,
that happens?
and then the audience votes.
Oh wow! How many times does that happen? Several times throughout the event, or is it a one-time deal?
No, it happens twice during the day, each day.
Okay.
Yeah, with each day the sculptures.
What days are the event, and what days and times?
Oh.
It doesn't have to be date. What day of the week?
It's opens on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and stays open Monday. I think the vendors leave on Sunday, but it's still open on Monday for people to come down.
People come through.
A lot of locals like to come down and avoid the crowds.
Oh, that's true. That's actually the day I saw it last time. It was on the third day. It's really easy if you live here on Siesta Key. Ride your bike over, walk over. Obviously parking is always a little bit of an issue, but people do. It seems like people migrate in and out. They come stick around for a couple hours and they go shopping in the village or something. But I've noticed it does.
Yeah, and then we have people that buy the package where they can go every day too, so they come to see progress. At the end, they should come back for the award ceremony. Come back for the bands. They're going to be at the beach. We have musical bands, talent playing all day long. Friday, Saturday, it's not really Sunday too now. So yeah, and some great bands too.
Really, that's great.
Great. And then we have Saturday night we light them up with colored lights. The evening have a beach party at Deadly Band.
And they are serving alcohol out there. Is that an incorrect statement?
I believe so. Yeah, we've been doing that for a little while. We've had a little bar sponsored by a little bar. I'm sure. I'm sorry, I don't know who it is this year. I'm not involved in the creation of it anymore. I don't live in the area. I live in Mount Dora. I work for Arthur Resort, Missouri, in-house Sand Sculptor. And so my partner in my business, Sand Venture Crew, Andy Daly, he's the guy that does everything.
He's the editor.
Yeah, he does everything. He buys the center sculptures and organizes the sculptors. And, yeah. But
He's the day-to-day
he
operation.
takes care of everything inside the fence, and the chamber takes care of everything outside the fence with vendors.
It's quite the party. I mean, there's a lot going on. It's a very festive atmosphere. If you've not been out, you've got to come out, check it out. Check out the sand sculptures, and it is a good time. There's music.
And bring the kids and let them play on the sand. We have a special sand pile just for them to mess around with. Yeah, get some great pictures at the photo ops. I think we have a vintage board game theme this year. So,
Oh,
for the
fun.
centerpiece. So,
Well, that's exciting. How many years do you know off the top of your head?
I think this is 14th year. Of course, missing something down and do it.
No, I'm really excited. It's a great weekend to be here on Siesta Key. Like I said, I'll just ride my mic over.
I
Check
hope
it out.
anybody who hears this comes down and says hi to me. I like to talk to people, so come say hi, see me and Matt create whatever we're creating.
Well, thank you for creating this. It's something special here on the island. It's great to know that it is. You know, we hear all the time that Siesta Sand is special, but you're the expert.
It's unique in all the world. There's nothing like finest whitest sand in the world. 99% quartz crystal. You can look at it under a microscope. It looks like a bunch of little diamonds.
Does it pack better when it's...
It packs. Although because it is crystal and not shell sand, it does have the tendency to have shears.
Oh, well.
Slide off. It's packed tight.
Well, anybody
So these
that's
guys
ever built
really
a
have to
sand
pack
castle
the
knows that. You get it built and then half of it just falls off.
sand. But it doesn't fall like shell. Shell just kind of falls. This will shear, just flat, where it just slide off.
So I heard a rumor that you have a business that you can actually, if somebody wants to create a sand sculpture, that you have a business, you'll come out.
Sand Venture Crew. Andy Daly is our lesson guy as well, and he gives incredible lessons. He'll meet you anywhere on Siesta Key or even Venice or any of the little islands. And he'll give you a 2-hour lesson with your family and make sure you walk away with a nice big sand $1,000 how they're creating do this.
Mark's great. You're so beautiful. You're into your Siesta. I'm always excited to find out another one. Usually something like that.
It's a great family event too. He tries to get the adults and everybody involved, and they when we leave they keep going. So
Well, thank you for creating that.
Yeah.
We look forward to this weekend and having the podcast in the future.
and my pleasure, and thank you for promoting. Appreciate it.
No pleasure. Thanks, sir.
Gilligan's Island Bar and Grill. Experience the heartbeat of the Siesta Village's dining and social scene. The final segment is brought to you by the law offices of Eric Fleming, specializing in real estate closings. Mr. Fleming is also the current president of the Siesta Key Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome back. We are here with Judie Berger, near and dear to my heart, and this is a special interview for me. Judie and I have worked together now for 6 years. Judie is, our team has been, we sold about $500 million in the last 5 years. Is that a correct number?
Just shy of $500 million. And
Judie has lived on Siesta Key for 30 years, sold real estate here on Siesta Key for 25 years, has been the #1 realtor that entire time for
since 2005.
2005. And she has a unique perspective of also losing a lot during the hurricanes. You want to talk about what happened with all that?
Well, one of the things, you always have to find something positive out of something negative. So what I will say about this is I, along with so many other people, were caught off guard with Hurricane Helene. I have been evacuating at least once a year for 30 years. I have a routine. I don't know whether we've all gotten a little complacent But we expected more of what happened with Hurricane Milton instead of what's happening with Hurricane Helene. So the damage from the flooding, you always hear about people being affected by floods in other parts of the country, or even in Hurricane Debbie, where surprisingly some people out east of Sarasota were caught off guard, and it was not even a flood zone.
Right.
But this was so unusual, and for the first time in 30 years, I didn't take all the precautions that I would normally take. Packing things up, putting them in the top of closets, or putting them up on countertops.
Right, you're always the best. I am the worst at packing, and you are the best. You have a whole routine, and you drive off the island.
I do.
And you didn't do that this time.
Didn't do it this time.
At the house.
Yeah, well, I had a great offer the weekend before. My boyfriend and I had just got finished decorating his mid-century line, his historic Twitch, he just closed on in June. And it was perfect. We stood back and we looked at everything the weekend before and said, this place looks great. And he said, yes, but it needs some really great art. He said, do you want to jump on a plane and go to Santa Fe to buy art? It was the best offer I've ever had for a pre-hurricane evacuation. Yeah, so we got on the last plane out, never expecting anything to happen. I pulled some of I always keep everything in plastic crates. I pulled my plastic crates to the center of the room and locked the screen doors, as you know, and figured it would be a wind event, and only to get to Santa Fe and call you.
Right, that was that was interesting. I had to leave it around to tell Judie that everything they owned was underwater. Both their houses, it's all three of their vehicles.
Yeah.
That was an interesting conversation. We were trying to FaceTime.
Yeah, there's no internet. That's right.
That day, and we were all taken by surprise. You were completely taken by surprise.
Yeah, especially because I had spoken with one of my neighbors the night before, and his security cameras on his pool area could see ice seawall, and there was no water at 8:15 at night, even on top of the seawall.
Wow.
So the water that damaged my neighborhood came from the beach. It was, I wished I could have seen what happened, because it's almost unfathomable how the water from the Gulls could have done the damage it did in my neighborhood.
And you're in Siesta Isles.
I'm in Siesta Isles, and I live in the center, over the little bridge. So I'm not quite sure what happened, but all of the debris was in front of my house. And my kayaks that were on the side of my house were pushed to the back now. So I'm not quite sure what happened, but we do know what the damage is. And the interesting thing is the varying levels of damage. Even in my own neighborhood, there could be a house that was dry, and then the next house had a foot of water. So in my house, it's pretty high. It's an older home, but it's pretty high in the neighborhood. But I guess we're at the end of the cul-de-sacs. We were like the last line of defense of the water. So here we are. We are in recovery. We are, you learn what is important. You always hear that in disasters, and it's true. You learn what's important. You grieve the things you lost, things you wished you had put up high. Yeah, and you have to make very quick decisions.
Especially when there's another hurricane coming behind. That was one of the things
yeah, that was the other thing. Anything we could save went out on tarps during the week. And of course, we had a couple of rainstorms that week. So we had giant tarps. Everything was covered up. I had everything all tucked in that we were going to be able to save. And then right before Milton came, I didn't even realize there was a Milton coming, because we were so overwhelmed with what we were so focused. No internet, bad cell phone service. And when someone came to me, they stopped by and said, the day before Milton, and said, there's another hurricane coming.
That's how you found out about
Yes. And I was like, you have to be joking.
Right.
So we unwrapped everything that we had had under tarps, and we didn't realize it, but with the heavy rains that week, everything had filled up like a swimming pool. So everything else that I was trying to save was in it. So
I think what people that aren't here on the island, and I was amazed even after Helene, and I was taking my son to soccer up in Lakewood Ranch, and I said, this is crazy. We are devastated out on the island. You get up to Lakewood Ranch and it looks like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then we had to deal with 2 hurricanes.
Yeah.
One of the things I've seen is because my house is elevated. Thank God. It's 90 feet in the air. I did have some storage, underneath the house. I
Right.
lost some couches and things like that. But I didn't lose every shoe. I didn't, there was, I keep saying,
That's the problem.
it's all these little things that we're running into.
Yeah.
The shoes, every little thing.
Just
that
things you
floated
go
off.
to grab, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was in such a hurry to get out of town because we were trying to get on the last plane to go to Santa Fe. So I was pulling things out of my closet and they were falling down on the floor. And I was like, oh, I'll get that when I come back. So,
no big deal.
yeah, so every
And
single
nothing was
thing.
where you left. Nothing. Yeah, it was.
No, there were things that floated through the house. And one of the funniest things was when we were cleaning out, I would say goodbye to each pair of shoes. Some of them were brand new in boxes I hadn't even opened them. And I was putting them in the trash can. We had a can just filled with purses and shoes.
Wow.
And that went out into the street. It wasn't picked up before Milton. So after Milton, my daughter had walked from the South Bridge over to see if there was other damage to the house. And she said she got onto my street and my shoes were all over the street.
There have been so many stories like that of the little things that floated away.
Yeah.
I lost the batteries from the back of my jet
That's
skis.
right.
Went to put them in the water. When you take them off, you let it drain. We put them in this cooler that we always put them in.
And
It
just
floated
those
away.
little things. Like I keep thinking, well, the funny thing is I'll say, well, run over to my house and go get, that's on the kitchen counter. And it's like, oh yeah, right, there are no kitchen counters anymore.
Yeah.
So it's your mind plays games a little bit
Right.
with you. And I sit there and I visualize, or if I'm waking up or before I wake up in the morning and I think about things, they're just not there anymore.
Right.
And however, on the bright side, my kids said, okay, Mom, if this is what we were going to have to do if we die, and you wouldn't have been here to help us, this was really a good thing to purge. And I will admit, it's a tough way to purge, but
Right. Well, we put our clients through it all the time.
That's right.
Never listed with us. No,
that's
Judie Berger Staging Takes. I want to talk about where real estate is on Siesta Key right now. What are you seeing?
well, it's a little early to judge what might or might not happen. We're 6 months into the future. What I've had a lot of calls, as you can imagine.
Right.
So not only did I lose my house and my car, and my boyfriend lost 2 houses and 2 vehicles. We've also you and I have both been getting calls from prior clients,
Right.
current clients, future clients, neighbors, friends, trying to figure out where they go from here. And the calls are both from people that lost their homes and cars and minor damage, and people that didn't have any damage whatsoever because when the market drops, as you know, back in the crash that we had when it was mortgage related back in 2007-8, it affected everyone.
Right.
It didn't just affect that person who lost their house. It
Right.
started to domino to everyone else, and it trickled down to the people who were faithfully making their mortgage payments. So where are we now? One of the things I've advised when I get the call, especially if it's someone that I've never spoken to before, I know why they're calling. And I ask them, first of all, do they have a place to live if their house was damaged?
Right.
And if they have a place to live, what I have suggested is if they, and this is early on, if they hadn't started their remediation, which is pulling out everything wet, pulling out all of your up 2 to 4 feet, your drywall, the insulation, your flooring, your appliances, the furniture, your foot, anything that is like a foot within is flood line. After that's all been done, remediate, so that's remediation,
Right.
cleaning and remediation. And then the house needs to get scrubbed down, sanitized, and then dried. So if they've started that process, what I've suggested is take a little bit of a pause, try to decide what you need to do, because generally all these homes that flooded were, they're governed for the renovation or rebuilding by 50% rule.
The FEMA 50%.
FEMA 50% rule, which is 50% you can improve your home or renovate your home or restore your home as long as it's less than 50% of the value of your structure. It has nothing to do with your land.
And that's because, just for people that don't know, that's because we are in a floodplain. All of Siesta Key is in a flood zone. So we are regulated by FEMA.
That's correct. And it doesn't matter whether you have FEMA insurance, want to have FEMA insurance, or want to do anything with FEMA, you are still governed through permits. Permitting is one side of it. That because you can't do renovations without an approval of permitting from Sarasota County, they have alleviated some of that during this flooding situation. But it affects the subsidies that all of Sarasota County receives from the federal government. And if Sarasota County doesn't work within those guidelines, we could be at jeopardy, yes, at risk of losing our subsidy, and the insurance rates would go eye cracking. So if people have remediated already, I've suggested that they take a pause. Try to figure out what it is that you want to do. You need to figure out if you can do the renovation. First of all, if they have insurance, then they've got to have the insurance adjusters meet with that, and then it's a bit of a process. I've been with 6 weeks since flood, and I had my FEMA adjuster, my insurance adjuster for my FEMA insurance, out the day after the flood. We are still working. I haven't heard yet what the adjustment's going to be, or what the offer's going to be of the base flood allegation insurance, which is a maximum of $250,000, unless you've had excess coverage through a company like Boyd's Insurance. So most people carry the base insurance of $250,000, which is the maximum. And then generally, with everyone I've spoken with, they had about $100,000 of coverage for contents. And you have to itemize everything. The contents coverage, that can't be, they can't process the structure coverage until the contents coverage is submitted. So it's kind of, it's a vicious cycle while you're doing all of this. So if someone has the insurance, then, if we talk about the steps they need to do to take care of that part of it. And then if they have the funds to do the renovation, but you have to get the quotes from the from contractors and the permits, and then have them approved by Sarasota County before you start work. Now, we've been doing a lot of research over the last couple of weeks.
Contacting people in the county, trying to figure out what's been going on, because there has been a lot of misinformation out there.
A lot of misinformation. And a lot of layered information. And a lot of information coming out of the county that doesn't match up with one department of the county isn't exactly telling us the same thing as another department. So it is very confusing. People have thought, and I've had some people say, well, we have to tear our house down if it's above the 50% of the value of the structure. And the value of the structure is determined by you could get 1-2 weeks from the tax records. The property appraiser deeds what the value of the structure to the value of your land is in your market value, just market value in your property taxes. Or you can have a private appraiser come out and appraise to see if your structure is actually worth more, since the county doesn't actually come out to look at your house.
Right.
It's just based on
costs. A couple of things I found out while doing the research that surprised me. It is the value before the start. So what happens is they're going to look at it. Hopefully you have pictures of that. Right. And you can get the private appraiser. Most people are expecting that that's going to give them a little bit higher value.
Yes.
And then my understanding is they're also giving a 20% bump on top, whatever you do, is on the appraiser's office.
That's what we've been told.
That's what we've been told.
And the reason for that is the county just market value is approximately 20% lower than the real estate market. So that's a fuzzy number. It's always been a fuzzy number.
Right.
But those are the ways you can get your numbers up. So if you are able to renovate your house within that number, say your structure's worth $500,000, and you can renovate it for $250 and your quotes come in under $250, you should be able to tunnel for that. However, if your quotes go over $250, then you can see that your house should be demolished. I found last few weeks figuring that there had to be something in between that from having a house that can be remodeled, possibly, or torn down. There's got to be something in between. So we've been doing a lot of research about elevated homes, which hasn't been very popular in our area because we haven't had to in the past. So I've only known 25 years that I've been selling real estate. I've only known of 2 homes that were ever elevated. It's just the key. One was a listing of mine, a cute old fishing cottage that used to sit on a big pass that they moved to North Siesta Key side streets. One of my clients purchased it during the downturn and renovated it. It's kind of like a church. It's very cool. And another house on the island was under the FEMA program years ago. We used to get grants for FEMA, from FEMA, to raise your house. So from what I understand, in your flood insurance, FEMA will also allow you $30,000 to lower your home. So I am actually meeting the Norwegian company tomorrow to find out if it makes sense for my house. But at the same time, I'm learning it may not be for my house. But I've asked people when they called, and I think the suggestion that maybe they should get an appointment with this elevation company or one of the local elevation companies, that they could, if they love their house and they love their haylawn, and love their neighbors,
and their view.
and they are not interested in their peace and between the cost and she's going to be somewhere in a year, 2 years, between permitting and planning. It just isn't a viable option for people that's less money that will allow them to stay in the house they've got, just elevated, and at that point, that it's kind of rectangular. Some businesses and something like or a little bit less. So it certainly beats a big bill that's $1.5 million to $2 million. The good thing about that is it should only take 6 months. So you only pay out of it 6 months. The cost is definitely better than a new build, and it gives people an option. We're just looking for an option so that our neighborhoods don't. The community stays together, because it's very easily to break off an entire community. We're trying to stick together as a community.
I think there are a lot more options out there than what people initially thought.
Yes.
When it first happened, I know it was just all over. Even the we're in this business. Like you said, a lot of our past clients and neighbors were calling us looking for direction, and it's very unfortunate that you went through, you're going through it, so
I'm very
unfortunate, right? You know what these people are going
I'm
through.
empathetic, and I'm doing the research on it, so they don't have to. So I've been sending, appraisers to my clients and anyone that calls, and the elevation company and the rebuilding company, the remediation companies, and the insurance company.
Right.
So we've been really busy working every single day since the storm. We're not working to sell houses at this moment, but we are working to help our community figure out what we need to do so that we can rebuild. And maybe it won't take as long. And it was interesting. I had very good time, and the reporter wanted me to say a lot of negative things, like, it's going to take forever, it's just to keep the same. And he said, well, what about what happened in Fort Myers? Is it going to take as long as Fort Myers has taken? And I said, well, Fort Myers is not safe.
No, and that's, I think, the very relevant point. We fight very, very hard to not Fort Myers or anybody else to be our only animal. Siesta Key is a thing.
It's a thing. That is, people are dying to come here. If you follow your social media posts since this happened, people are just dying to get here on vacation, and they're scrambling, trying to figure out, okay, if I'm supposed to come here in January, February, will everything be open?
Right.
Yeah, but we have a lot of out of the area for people that have been coming here for years and grown up here. grandparents have places here. You know, it's our typical climate. They've been right here longer than you or I have been.
Right. Yeah, and I have been very impressed with the way the community has come together. I've seen in every different business, people helping people. I know I was offered sandwiches by one of our rival, our competitors. And he brought me in. He's like, "Hey, take these sandwiches, take them, take them out, give them to the neighbor." We are a wonderful and advanced, and we want to keep it that way.
We will. And so what you asked me was, what has it done for the values? It's kind of a big I don't know right now. We don't have enough properties that have come on the market that are being sold as flood properties. Really have to look through the listings right now. There's been a handful. I have some stats from just in single family homes in the last 6 weeks since the hurricane. We've had 22 homes come on the market, which really there aren't many. And they range from, $725,000 up to $4 million. We've had 8 go under contract during that time period, and we've had 8 close. One of them was out. Some of those were under contract previously, but some of those did not have to close. There is a close contract. If any property is not in the same condition as the contract, the buyer can choose not to close after 30 days. Those properties are closed. Right. So we only had one instance where we couldn't get past the insurance adjuster's time frame to get the recovery. Otherwise, closing, people are buying the homes that have been flood damage remediated, and some of them will be torn down. And I think it's going to take about 6 months to see how this all shakes out. So my biggest advice for people that own properties that were damaged, if you're not entirely, alcohol. All right, we're not sure where it's going to go. There are no big fire sales at this moment, and we're still really excited with the place to be.
Right. Yeah, we're still Siesta Key. Everything that made us Siesta Key, it's still here. Yeah, now we've got some debris to clean up, and that's coming along great.
It's amazing. After 2 hurricanes, 6 weeks, some of the side streets still have a lot of debris, but every single day there's improvement.
All right.
And every single day, another store or shop or restaurant opens. So, we're here. We're open for business, and we'll be different. We won't be as food as food. It's going to look different in some neighborhoods, but it's still over Siesta Key. And that beach is amazing. I walk every morning on the beach. That beach, you would really not know anything.
No, when you walk out there on the beach, that's the first thing that recovers. It's the beach there. Mother Nature cures itself.
It sure does. Look what happened with Midnight Past.
Right. I've been so excited about that. And that is going to improve our water flow on the entire island. Of the results from that.
So, it's a paradigm shift. With bad comes good. And you can either look at things in a negative way or a positive way. And you and I are
we're always very positive. Yeah, I was very, I was really worried about what the message that was being sent out after the storms. Everybody was curious to see what it looked like. Now they need to see what it looks like now.
That's
we're coming back around. It does. It's funny. It's a little bit brainy here because
the salt water,
salt water mixes with it doesn't mix with the landscape,
and it's dry season. So we're gonna get some rain next day or two, but it's like 20% chance of rain.
Right, it hasn't been a lot.
But we're in. It's typical browner season anything.
Right, but it's coming back. I've noticed my trees, the leaves are coming back. It's recovering a lot faster than what I even thought.
Yeah, it was.
So I think by the time people get here during the season, we're going to be in both sleep, but back, and even back in a lot of ways.
I agree. And when those skies are blue and that Gulf is aqua, people forget about it.
Right. Well, thanks for coming on.
It's been my pleasure. Bye.
Captain Kurt's Village. Great drinks, great music, great food, especially the world-famous clam chowder. Stop on by.
Wow, what an absolutely incredible first show. You know, everybody here on Siesta Key is working really hard to put our lives, our businesses, our homes back together. And I want to say a special thank you to our 4 guests today who didn't hesitate at all when we called and asked them to be a part of our very first show. They stepped away from everything they've got going on to be a part of this, and that really means a lot to us. Siesta Sand Live is going to come to you every week, so we hope that you will stay tuned week after week to see who we've got coming next. Starting with week number 2, guest number 1 will be Commissioner Mark Smith. So we hope to see you then. Stay sunny, Siesta.